Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you are a Leo and you are interested in a Pisces individual or you're actually currently in a relationship with one. And I already did this video, but I could not figure out how to put one picture onto an iMovie. I have an iPad. So if anyone knows how to do this, I've searched far and wide. Please leave me a message because I would love to learn how to do this. I use a different method, but it's like, So in any case, that's fine because it got cut off anyway. So that was a little bit tricky. So when you're looking at Leo and Pisces, you're looking at fire and water. And somebody just told me that fire boils water, which I love, because I said that water puts out fire, because water tends to be more kind of worrying and into security, and the fire signs tend to be very adventurous and idealistic, and so there can be that kind of like dynamic going on. Although I will say that Pisces, out of all the water signs, I think is up for a lot more. Pisces can kind of become like the person that they're with, and that can be a good thing if it's somebody who is quite different from them, because Leo and Pisces form an awkward angle called an inconjunction. And this is when two signs are 150 degrees apart, or two planets, but now I'm talking about signs. And it really relates to elements. So water and fire are considered, weird, elements to combine. And really, though, I have found that some of the weird combinations actually do have things in common as well. It's just that the function of each of these elements doesn't seem to kind of suggest that they're going to be on the same page. But I always look for those areas where they are, because people do get together who you wouldn't expect to, and we can't just write them off. I realized that a famous couple had this combination, and it was Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. And another thing that I'm just thinking about, because this was a power couple, and in a Pisces person's chart, Leo would be in their 6th house. So you could see a situation where a Leo person can help a Pisces person business-wise. We can just extend it and say career-wise. And so the thing about them is that when I am thinking about it, I realized that Lucille Ball never changed her name to include his last name. At least, in her show business name, she was always Lucille Ball. So she was such a pioneer in many ways. And that is so indicative of a female Leo. Leo's a masculine sign, not being the subservient partner. And of course, nowadays things are different between men and women. I talk about heterosexual couples because I'm talking about the gender issues. So same-sex couples is going to be a different thing, and I'm not really well-versed to speak on that astrologically. But I'm fascinated by gender roles and astrological combinations, and I have said in prior videos that I think for the smoothest sailing, it makes sense for the woman to be the feminine sign and the man to be a masculine sign. Maybe for people over the age of 40. There might be kind of differences nowadays with people under 40 that this is not a hard and fast rule that gender roles are, rigidly adhered to. So it might, all bets might be off for that age group. But yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, of course, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz did not stay together. And I said in a prior video that I did for Cancer and Leo that I believe that water sign males tend to be macho. And so therefore, if they have a kind of a dominant female, that could ruffle their feathers a little bit if they are a traditional male. When I say a macho male, it really is being more traditional and kind of clinging to those gender roles, the traditional gender roles. So basically, how I do these readings is I look at some of the things, some of the common ground that these people may have, and then look at some of the things that where they may clash. So in terms of common ground, just by virtue of the Leo person, you, if you're listening as a Leo, being a fire sign, and the element of water for Pisces, these are both emotional people. They express it differently. Leo is more objective about, it's more about passion with fire signs, a passion for life, passion for the things that matter to them. And for water signs like Pisces, it's the sensitivity, the emotions, the memories of their life, the sentimentality. But Pisces is definitely a romantic person. So Leo, you have met your match, and you're going to have somebody who appreciates that side of life. And that makes it easier for you, because if you're with a different sign, they may be kind of indifferent to that sort of thing. Pisces, I think, loves fun like Leo. Out of all the water signs, I think Pisces is the most capable of letting down their hair, going out on the town, and just enjoying parties and things like that. Usually because Pisces is a feminine sign, I think of a homebody, a nester, an introvert. But Pisces can mimic any sign, and Pisces definitely has a tendency to take on the personality of the people around them. Water is very receptive, and Pisces is also a mutable sign, so that makes for somebody who is a chameleon. And that means that Pisces is very adaptable. Leo tends to run the show in one way or the other, dominate their environment, because Leo is larger than life and is a natural leader. So for you, I mean, you're supposed to be so compatible with fire signs, but you may find that with other fire signs, there's an ego clash where, who gets to be in charge. And with Pisces, you probably will not have that problem. Male or female, they will be more submissive, they will be more cooperative, and so it makes it easier for you to be the sun, the center of the universe. You're both people, if that's the way to say it. You're both, I wish I could say people persons. And again, I think Pisces is a very social animal, even for a water sign. And I think all water signs are people. The only thing is that water tends to be kind of into their own personal social network that is very close-knit and very personal to them, and not necessarily branch out and always want to meet new people. Leo being a fire sign and being expansive, there's always that desire to grow, and that could include the social contacts. I think, to give credit to water signs, I think that they are craving very deep emotional connections rather than a lot of connections. They want those quality emotional connections. And so there's always that need for trust and that need for intimacy. And they probably feel that they can't have that by just continuously meeting new people, because you can't develop deep relationships with everybody that comes down the pike, right? So that's kind of where I was going with that. And yet of all of the water signs, I think Pisces, maybe being a mutable sign and craving variety, might be down with, hanging out and meeting new people and just having parties and, just being, the camaraderie of other souls, I think is very appealing to Pisces as well. So I don't think there is that kind of person who wants to be a couch potato and doesn't want to mingle or anything like that. And sometimes that's where the incompatibility lies. So that might be a good thing that you have in common. But one of the biggest ones is creativity. You might even meet at an open mic night, whether it's poetry or anything that you're performing, singing, songwriting, maybe like theater, even if it's like a local theater, and that could even be work related. If you're in the entertainment field, you will probably find a healthy number of Leo and Pisces individuals in the theater, because both are very emotive in their own way. I think with Pisces, it's almost like channeling characters. Leo, it's being expressive. And again, I think that this is an important detail, because if you are an artistic person, it makes sense to be with somebody who's like that as well, because they will respect that and they will nurture those inclinations, those talents in the other person, and they will understand why you're a little bit different. I think that both of you are childlike. Leo rules the 5th house, which deals with children, and probably both like children because of that. And you rule the house of children. And Pisces, by the way, I didn't say this. I should have said this at the beginning. This could also be the moon sign with either individual, because there are going to be similarities with the characteristics of the sun and moon, how they express themselves. The only real difference is that you might see more of the negative traits in the moon than with the sun. And I shouldn't say negative, challenging, or the shadow aspects. So for instance, if a Leo sun sign loves to express themselves, a Leo moon sign may crave the attention that self-expression brings, and they need it almost emotionally. And if they don't get it, there's this feeling of insecurity. So there's like, somebody can express themselves regardless and not worry about how, if they have an audience. But some people, they need it to kind of make themselves feel better, to know that they are being approved of, or actually, I would say with the moon in Leo, it's being seen. It's like, maybe when they were younger, they were, kind of either ignored or doted on by their mother. And, one of those two extremes, and they don't have the same kind of thing going on in adulthood, and they're looking for that attention. And there's an insecurity attached to it. But in general, I would say that this is a situation where both people can accept each other, because that they're compatible, like emotionally, in a lot of ways. And with children, this can be like, I can see a Pisces person nurturing children, and Leo just loves to interact with them. Pisces is kind, and Leo is generous. and generous not only monetarily, but with affection, with compliments, seeing the best in people, I think is a trait of Leo. And so Leo appreciates kindness coming from Pisces and those types of people. Leo doesn't like people who are mean. And, Leo thinks mean people suck, And the other thing that Pisces is naturally, acclimated towards is being intuitive and spiritual. And how that can play into things for Leo is if Leo is associated with career and maybe even as a workaholic, constantly chasing success. And that's a good balance to have somebody who's intuitive and spiritual because they can help you on a different level to kind of, keep the bigger picture in your consciousness over what is important in life. Now let's talk about some of the shadow aspects. Pisces people who are not as developed, who have not healed from certain things. And I think a lot of times Pisces, it's the last sign. So I think they tend to be old souls and they tend to get their fair share of trials and tribulations in life. And this can create a sense of learned helplessness. If you deal with parents who have addictions, or there's a lot of chaos in your childhood, it can create a sense that there is no, you can't depend on anything in life. And there's just chaos. And there's like a helpless feeling, learned helplessness is this feeling that there's nothing that the person can do themselves that is going to change things. So it's kind of a fatalistic attitude, and because Pisces is very intuitive, they tend to gravitate towards things like astrology and the tarot and things that can tell them what's going to happen in their life. Well, that's a form of dependency as well, because it's not taking responsibility for one's own choices and thinking that it's going to come outside of themselves. And, fatalism, everything is preordained. And hopefully I'll get a little bit of good luck in this lifetime. But, I'm going to go listen to my astrological report. And that can lead to dependency issues. And the Leo is naturally very stable and, consistent, being a fixed sign, and very self-confident, being a fire sign. And Pisces can be very attracted to people like that because they may have grown up with a lot of chaos and confusion. And Leo seems like this rock that they are clinging to, and that can lead to an imbalance in a relationship where you are it's almost like a parent-child relationship. And sometimes Pisces can come across as kind of the lost child, the damsel in distress if it's a woman. And if, a Leo man can find that very irresistible. Oh, what I was going to say is that Pisces can look very young for their age. And I would normally say, if their rising sign is Pisces, but I don't think it has to be limited to that. I would wager that it could be the sun or the moon as well. And I think that just like people age when they have a lot of stress in life, I think that people who energetically may get stuck in, at a certain younger age because of trauma, that they can kind of like the Peter Pan syndrome, they never really mature in certain ways, and it's reflected in how they look. And it can be very attractive because there's always like this innocence in that type of face, for instance. There's like a purity in somebody who has like a strong Neptunian Piscean appearance, maybe very like faraway gaze, like dreamy aura or facial expressions, but it can be problematic in the long term because you may find yourself with somebody who is not your equal in that way as an adult having a relationship, and you may end up taking care of them instead of having it be a mutual relationship. And these kinds of things go along with that as well. Too confused, not sure of themselves, being insecure, but then that translating into not having a direction in life, kind of drifting through life and looking for their partner to define them. And nobody can define us. They can reflect back to us our good qualities, but they can't give us our identity. That's dangerous. And if the Leo person is imbalanced too, because of their own trauma, they can take advantage of that, and it can be a very negative relationship for both parties. So it's something definitely to be aware of. And addiction. That's something that I must bring up. Again, this is not going to be all Pisces people. These are going to be people who have problems, and every sign. I mean, look, Whitney Houston was a Leo, and she had a terrible problem with addiction. It was tragic, what happened to her. But Pisces, being ruled by Neptune, it tends to be an escapist. Part of this is because they have such a highly sensitive nature, and it can make them so sensitive to the pain that others are experiencing. They're natural empaths, that their first inclination is to do something to escape that, including, wanting to get away from anything harsh, anything that feels like it indicates sadness in life. And so a healthier escape is through creative endeavors, through channeling it through art. But it does lure some Pisces people into addiction, into mind-altering substances, which can lead to addiction. And again, this can reinforce this idea of dependency, of not being fully functioning, and that sort of thing. But because these people can be very kind, but they can be manipulative. And I didn't write this down, but now that I think about it, this is very important, because when you're dealing with somebody who's a Pisces, there are a certain percentage of them who are going to be con artists, and sometimes this is because they're addicted, addicts or something like that, where they are playing a role in order to get their needs met. And anybody who is a water sign, but you can extend this to anybody who is a con artist, has the ability to tap into other people's psyches and know what makes them tick, know what they like, what they want, and to try to become that so that they can get their way. And so with Pisces, this can really run the gamut of like even positioning themselves and trying to become exactly what that person wants in a partner, so that they can take what they want to take. These would be people who are very damaged, who are, I guess, the reason that they do it is because it's like, I don't know if it's getting over on someone, trying to, like, tricking somebody gives them some kind of a sense of having control in life. I mean, there are probably a million different reasons. Like even taking advantage of Leo's generous nature in terms of finances, if the Pisces person is kind of a grifter type of individual. Again, this is a form of dependency where the person doesn't feel capable of making it on their own. So they have to be deceptive with others in order to get their needs met. And that is, of course, highly, highly dysfunctional and is not going to be every Pisces. And when I do the flip side of this, and I'm talking about Pisces people, I'm going to be telling them about the dark side of Leo. So it's not picking on Pisces by any stretch of the imagination. So it's important to bring these things up for those people who are already involved in a relationship with a Pisces, because you may find that it's crazy making. They may be even like suggesting that you're the problem and, gaslighting, if you will. But they're playing with your mind, they're playing with your emotions, trying to make you feel guilty about being the way that you are. Like if you're trying to, I wouldn't call it stand your ground, but be firm about something, they might try to act like you're being mean or you're not accepting them for who they are. And you may fall for it. So it's very important that you hear these things, even the things that are hard to hear, because it may release you from that feeling of confusion or whatever they have done that has made you made your head spin. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you'd like a private reading, if you are with somebody and you would like me to get more specific looking at your chart, looking at their chart, just hit me up. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. The link is below. Take care. Bye.